vehicles and the adaptations. I brought them all inside our garage too, so we can do see some of this stuff physically and stuff. On what's new out there, I was telling Ryan and Heather, there's going to be a wheelchair accessible SUV called the Chevrolet Traverse. That's coming out in February. That's the newest. Honda Odyssey. They're back to producing the wheelchair accessible Honda Odysseys. We have the Chrysler Pacificas. Just to kind of give you a heads up, Dodge is discontinuing their accessible minivans. Actually, they're discontinuing the minivans, so they're not going to be able to be modified. So, so Dodge is cutting out the Dodge Grand Caravans, Ryan. So, they're going to be going to what's called as the Voyager. They're going to totally redesign it. So it's going to go from the Grand Caravan to the Voyager. Toyota Siennas are going to be hybrids coming up now. So, so Braun, VMI, the two biggest dealers that modify them, are looking on ways on how to convert them actually. So, but yeah, that's pretty much when it comes to the newer vehicles. Now, question for you, and like anytime you guys have any questions, just absolutely just pipe in and ask and stuff. I know that I brought in some of the vehicles. If you guys want to see like hand controls in a vehicle, a transfer seat, I have a vehicle we're doing right now that has a transfer seat that I can show you how it spins around. I have a demo van of a vehicle that a seat comes out and lowers and brings you in. So I'll just leave the floor up to you guys with questions, what you want me to answer or show you, because I have, like I said, I have a pretty good size demo area in our shop with all this stuff. So does anybody want to see anything in particular and stuff? Or
Yeah, Eric, I would love to see that seat that you just talked about that lowers out or whatever it does.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm gonna walk from my office to the showroom right over here.
Eric, while you were doing that,
Yeah.
what were you saying about the Honda Odyssey?
So Honda Odyssey, they had stopped doing the conversions for about 2 years. Now they're back to making them.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I'll show you actually the Honda Odyssey. All right.
Eric,
Thank you.
Hey, Marty.
For a second? I actually got the pleasure, not too closely, but there was someone that came on campus here that had the Chevy Traverse.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What'd you think of it?
So I didn't really get a chance to get in, but they had the side load one.
Yes.
And it looks cool. It looks a lot like a minivan.
Does it? Yeah, you would think with an SUV, right?
Yeah, I thought they had a Toyota behind it, and the Toyota, it looked like a newer Toyota, but the Toyota one looked a lot like a mini. They look very similar. So I don't know if the newer Toyota fans are going in the direction of looking more like an SUV or what. Yeah, it was kind of cool. I was told that I couldn't get into it because it wasn't owned by the organization here. It was owned by an individual, and that from the looks of it, someone of my stature, my height, they would have to be able to remove the front passenger seat to be able to get me in. So
yeah, because headroom's big with these vehicles, because if you come in, some of the minivans don't have as much headroom. Some of the SUVs don't have as much headroom as the minivans. That's what we ran into in the Ford Explorers when they used to do them. Yeah. But I remember Mom sent me a picture of you driving. How'd you do it, man? You drove with was it the EMC stuff, if I remember? Or?
So I had a joystick in my left hand.
Yeah.
And a tiny wheel about, I want to say probably about 5 inches in diameter.
Sure.
In my right, that controlled the wheel, and then my left hand controlled the brake and the drive. And I guess if I had, there was another way to have it also control reverse. So unfortunately, I'm not yet into the driving mode again, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Yeah, the nice thing about that type of equipment, EMC, basically, you could drive with a joystick, like do the whole thing, drive, and do the gas and brake all with one joystick, which is nice and stuff, you know. But yeah, what I'll do is, let me see. Can you guys hear me? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was
I'm
also
gonna
going
have.
to suggest, sorry to interrupt, Eric, just I was going to suggest that if people don't have their view set to speaker view, you
Yeah.
might want to change that just so that the picture on your screen will be a little bit larger so that, you know, you're not just like a little profile
Okay.
picture, but just as a suggestion, not knowing how everybody's set up on their Zoom. I know like on a laptop, it is up in the top right corner where you can click view and then go to speaker view. And then that will change it so that you can only see me right now. And then when Eric comes on, you'll be able to see him and the screen a little bit bigger.
Perfect. Well,
All right.
good thing is I have my co-pilot who's going to be holding the phone for me while I do everything. So say hello.
Hi guys.
Hold on. Let me flip this around here. All right. Flip it around. Okay. That's my wife, Erin.
Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you guys.
Thanks for helping out.
My pleasure. He got me up out of bed on a rainy morning.
Oh, I know. We were just talking about that. Ugh.
He owes me a big car wash or something.
That's right. Or at least a big cup of coffee.
I already have that right here.
Oh, good, good.
All righty. So Pam, like you had asked about, so this actually has a pendant. As you can you guys see the pendant and stuff? I'm holding it up.
yes.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually operate. You're going to watch this whole seat come out and stuff here. Let me just open up the door. This is one of our demo vans here. So you can see everything as the. So it rotates, and it's actually, we have a computer program where it'll basically come forward, turn, and it'll actually do it all. So that way you can clear so many different openings and stuff, you know. So you can see how it just kind of goes forward and back. It just has all these adjustments. Now it's going to start to come out. I've actually done some of these in drivers, like with pickup trucks, and they have a lift to put their wheelchair in the back, and then they're driving trucks with it and stuff, you know. So it's actually really cool. And it goes down to about 12 inches off the ground. So. Yeah. So it goes pretty low. What a lot of people do is, if they're in a wheelchair, if they can do a slide, then they can get themselves in and stuff.
So but then someone has to put your wheelchair in the car for you, it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And you can get one of those on the driver's side as well?
Yep. Well, we've done, Pam, is we've done a lot of the pickup trucks where they have a lift in the back bed that'll lift a wheelchair, put it in the back, and then they'll basically transfer into the seat. So it's one of those Bruno outside lifts and stuff. Some people have actually, if they do this, they'll break apart their chair and put it into the passenger seat in pieces. But you're right, absolutely, you have to take and find a way to put your chair in somewhere. So,
Eric, how much, I hate to ask, how much does that cost roughly?
no, that's a great question. It's installed, they're about $9,500. All the parts, all the labor.
And that is just for the chair part of it itself, right?
Yeah, that's for the whole, because they put this seat is actually a different seat, as you can see. It's smaller than any of the factory seats by a little bit. So that's the seat and all the turning mechanisms and stuff like that. So,
And Eric, how likely are those seats to have problems where, they don't work or they, need to be repaired? Do you know?
yeah. So they've been doing them. Let me see here. I'm hitting my 19th year. When I got here, they were doing them 19 years ago. Up until now, they're still doing them. So they got a good track record. You can always do them manually. There's just a little crank in the back. If it ever, power ever does go, they have a manual backup to it. It's just a little crank with like a Allen wrench, and it pulls it in and puts it back up and in and stuff, or pulls it out. So,
Oh, that's great. That's great.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a company called Bruno that started it, and now Bronability, they bought out Bruno, and now they basically do it out of the plant in Indiana and stuff. So, yeah.
And I guess they would probably only do that in an SUV or, I mean,
Yeah, SUVs, minivans, pickup trucks. Yeah. If you ever basically have a chance, you can Google. It's called the Braun EVOC, and you can Google it, and they have videos on the Braun site and everything, and all the applications. So you can just go in there and type in, what kind of vehicle that you got, and they can help out with applications.
did you say Braun E? What was it? E?
Yep, E as in Eric, V as in Victor, O. So if you Google Bronability EVOC, it should probably come up, and then you can just click on it. So.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So while we're showing this van, this is one of our demo vans. So we've actually have a system. If it's tough to get into a vehicle in your manual chair, there's a system that's like a little, I call it a wrench, but they call it a power pull. I'll just show you right over here. Yeah. So in the corner, there's like a little wrench. So if you're in a manual chair, you can see that it, and I can release it. But some people, if they're having a tough time getting up a ramp in their manual chair, we have a special type of winch system. So these two hooks go right onto the manual chair, and then it'll just pull right in and stuff. You just hit a remote control and just pulls you right in. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. That's called a power pull. I know, some people have power assist wheels to help get up an incline, but to get into a vehicle, you can do a special winch system now. So
That's cool.
yeah. And then we were just talking about the Honda Odyssey. So we'll show you what the Honda Odyssey looks like now and stuff here. So this will be the new Honda Odysseys. They just started doing them again and stuff. So I know we had a request for that earlier and stuff, the question. So now the Hondas come with a ramp that slides in the floor. They don't come with a folding ramp and stuff. So because there's two types of ramps, folding and in. I think yours, Heather, is the in-floor ramp, if I remember correctly. Correct?
Yes. Yep. I have the in-floor ramp.
Yeah. So the Hondas strictly are in-floor ramps and stuff. So
I have a Dodge though. So they make the Dodge with the in-floor ramp as well, obviously.
Yep.
But not usually. I feel like I don't usually see that.
Yeah. So all of them actually. Chrysler Pacifica is in-floor or fold out. The Dodge, the Toyota Sienna is in-floor or fold out. Honda is the only one right now that can only do the in-floor just the way they're built. They can't do a fold-out version, actually.
Is the in-floor problematic at all because sometimes it gets caught? You know, that you, once, if the ramp gets caught inside, when it's inside, you can't sort of pull it out manually, can you?
Yeah. So there is a crank. If the in-floor ramp ever stopped working, you can crank it out. There's a crank, or there's a separate battery backup where you can, if the vehicle battery goes down, there's a separate battery in the back that you can hit switches, which you can make it go out. So it's called the Sure Deploy system. So,
Okay.
but you're right though, in terms of maintenance, a lot of the salt, the sand gets on the ramp, and then you'll see that it goes inside the floor over here. So you got to make sure you keep it clean compared to a folding ramp for sure.
Yeah, I kind of like my in-floor ramp because I have a 6-year-old, so we can use both doors without it being blocked by the folding ramp. Like if he just needs to pop out, but I'm staying in the van, or it's just kind of nice to have that in-floor ramp. And knock on wood, but I haven't had any issues except for user error. One time I accidentally hit the button on the roof that stops the deployment of the ramp. I must have hit it as I was grabbing my purse, and then I left. I did my thing, and I came back. I went to open up the door, and the ramp didn't come out, and I was in total panic mode. So luckily, I was able to problem solve with someone, and so we just kind of figured out, okay, have you tried this button? Did you check this? And then I was able to have somebody go into my van, press the button, and then the ramp came out. So that was totally my fault, unknowingly.
Can the ramp adjust to different heights? I mean, if you park on a, next to an 8-inch curb as opposed to a 4-inch curb, will it kind of adjust properly to?
That's a great question. The only way to adjust the ramp is to turn the kneel system. So if you have a vehicle that has a kneel system where it lowers on one side when the ramp comes out, you could shut it off. That way, when the ramp comes out, it can possibly go on a curb. If you have it kneeling, then the ramp is going to be not good enough to go on a curb. So the kneel system is just an actuator that pulls it down on one side to make it less of a slope to get in. That's great for wheelchair users.
Wait a minute, if you were parking on a one-way street, like say you were on a new street, you would have to park on the left side of the street and get out into the traffic.
Yeah, because all of the ramps are always, they call this the curb side. So all the ramps are always on the passenger side. So they never do them on the driver's side.
The call came in. Sorry, guys, the call came in. Okay.
All right. So yeah, all of the ramps are always on the passenger side, never on the driver's side. So you're right though. If you have parking where it's always on one side, the ramp's always going to be on this side. So, and what they do is the companies that modify the vans, they actually extend the door opening with a bigger door track hinge. So this door will always be wider than the driver's side. So.
It is definitely, I think, an important feature to consider, whether you're looking for an in-floor or a fold-out ramp, especially just living in New England with the salt and sand, like you had mentioned, Eric. So just definitely something to think about.
Would a fold-out ramp adjust to different curb heights then?
Yes. Yep. I'll actually, we'll go over to the Chrysler here.
And question, as he's doing this, how often do you have to clean out your ramp, considering that you do live in New England?
Yeah, probably I don't do it as often as I should. I feel like that's always, I try to take care of my vehicle. whenever I go in to when I go to Mobility Works to, do my check-in, they usually blow out all the stuff, even in like the grooves and stuff for me. And sometimes like I'll have my PCA just go out and like sweep it. But really not that often. I try to stay away from like sand and mud and stuff like that, but occasionally, you can't avoid it. And if there's like big clumps of things, actually that's one thing I've been thinking about getting, is like one of those little mini brooms that I can just throw in the back of my car, just to have like, I have one of those little Swiffer dusters too, that I can just, Swiffer the van whenever I notice that it's getting a little dusty. But yeah, just having like a little broom is helpful too, just to sweep it out. But I couldn't tell you exactly how many times or like how often, and it's definitely not enough. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I actually have, the ramp came down and I actually just kind of put my foot on it just to simulate a curb. So folding ramps, once they hit like a curb, they have a limit switch that basically stops the ramp from going. So you can put it on higher curbs, lower curbs and stuff. So the nice thing about the fold out is, like you were saying, you can adjust the height of the curb. In-floor ramp is a little different because it actually comes out of the floor. So if the curb is high, it hits the curb, goes back in. So with folding ramps, you can get it on higher curbs for sure.
Hey, can I also add that it's also a good idea to vacuum and lubricate the track underneath that?
Yeah, I'll show you where.
Whenever I wash my van, which was yesterday, I always wipe that or vacuum it out and put in a shot of silicone spray.
Yeah, because it's got rollers, and when you have some of the silicone spray, it'll definitely go down this track a lot. But you're right, and you want to use a vacuum that has like a plastic nozzle, because if you use like a metal nozzle, you're going to start to scrape up everything and stuff. So yeah, definitely, this is the door track. So if you've ever gone through mass rehab, Eugene, the engineer who does all the vehicle inspections, he'll call this trucks. But you got to always vacuum this. This is all part of his presentation when he does that. So, but this is definitely important for sure.
I wanted to ask you a question on the new Toyota. I've been doing a lot of research on it, and it has a lot of great new options, a refrigerator, a vacuum, all kinds of neat stuff. But one of the things that interested me the most is I believe it has a new electronic four-wheel drive, which in the past we have not been allowed to have a four-wheel drive in a ramp van because of the lowered floor. Do you know if BMI or Braun is going to make a modified van with the electronic four-wheel drive?
We can't do anything that's all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, because when they lower the floor, basically that transfer case, all those, the parts that go into making all-wheel drive, the lower floor is in the way. So everything's always going to be a two-wheel drive, even the SUVs.
But I believe it's an electronic four-wheel drive.
I'm not 100% certain on what they have, but they're going to be two-wheel drives from Braun, because and from VMI. So until they figure out, but they're going to be the two wheels for now. That's what we know of. So.
You guys still there?
Oh, did I go?
Yeah,
No,
we're still here.
Okay. Yeah. So to answer your question, all the literature that we are getting on the 21s are the two-wheel drive versions. I haven't seen anything on the four-wheel drive version. So, but that's a great question. I know, like with the Ford Explorer that we used to do, the Chevy Traverse, all these are, when we modify them, they're all two-wheel drive. We can't do them on the all-wheel drive models. But good question. If I find anything out from VMI or Braun, I can just send everything over to Heather and she can send it out to you guys as well. So.
I have a question, Eric.
Yeah.
We know of a guy who has a car that I think he had outfitted in Canada, but it's a
Yep.
regular, actually, it's a BMW sedan. And he uses a manual wheelchair and he gets in the, he gets in the driver's seat by himself.
Yeah.
And then the trunk opens up and this arm comes out and grabs his chair and folds it. And puts it in the trunk.
Right.
Do you work with anything like that? Any of those kinds of contraptions?
If the only company we do business with in Canada is called Adaptations. So outside of that, if it's not anything that they do, probably not. Because we do a lot of like research with our 92 stores. We want to make sure there's not liability. So we, Adapt Solutions is all compliant with all the federal guidelines, both in Canada and the United States. So if it's something that's outside of our normal manufacturers, probably not. So,
Yeah.
but you can see there's so much out there on the internet. You see stuff that people do. It's incredible. But in terms of liability, we just stick with the manufacturers that are part of the National Mobility Equipment Deal Association, and they're certified. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I'd love to see it. Do you have any info on that? I'd love to see that. I'm
Yeah.
always interested in stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I could put you in touch with the person who owns it. I mean, he
Yeah.
showed us a video of
I
it.
see. Yeah.
Really
Because
cool.
I remember they used to do in Canada, there was a special kind of truck where they had a gull wing door. It opened up and there was a big platform. And then you get on this platform, you could drive from a pickup truck. And then there was a company in the States called Mobility SPM that did that and stuff. So, but yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, God only knows how much it costs, but I mean, it was really, great. I mean, it just, so easy.
Yeah. And you get to keep your car. If you own a BMW, it's nice to keep your car
Yeah, yeah.
and getting rid of it and stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm kind of interested in what it looks like to have a one of these pickup trucks. What type of scenario that looks like out of a chair situation. But
Yeah, it's basically what happens is they have a big boom arm, and then the doors basically are fused together, and the whole door goes with it, and then the platform comes down. So I've done a few of them. I have a few of my clients up in northern Maine, New Hampshire that have them. The only drawback is it's very tight in terms of your headroom and then your wheelchair. So the people that I've done it with have had manual chairs or like a zero turning chair, like a permobile chair and stuff. So.
and did you have to lower that? Like, do they have to lower the base of the pickup truck to allow that to happen?
Yeah, they lower just one side. Good question. So you can only lower either driver's side or passenger side. I had one that was a passenger who would never want to drive. So he just had it as a passenger, and then two were drivers. But they lowered just one side, and the door to get in is about 55 inches. Like normal, like minivans, you're 56, 57 inches. So that's where I was saying that it's a little limited in terms of your height. But yeah, no, they lower just on one side. So it's not like if you're a driver and you want to be a passenger in the pickup truck, you only have to do it on one side, unfortunately.
Eric, it's Alan.
Hey, Alan.
How you doing?
Good.
I checked it. I checked out the pickup one, and there was a couple of drawbacks that I saw. One is once the chair's in the back, it's exposed to the weather, so you got to be careful what kind of weather you go out in. But and the other thing is the whole thing. Once you get the chair in the back in the bed, it takes up a lot of space. So the bed of the truck is kind of limited to what you can use it for.
Yeah.
So I steered away from it, but
Yeah.
I do have the Adapt Solutions lift for my manual chair, as you remember, but
Yep, exactly, in the Toyota. Yeah.
Yeah, which works well for me.
Yeah, that they're from Canada, Alan. So that's, yeah, it's nice to see. So the lift in the back of the truck, they do make what's called as a like a power topper. So it's like it's a top that they make that actually is on pistons. It lifts up, and
Yeah,
it
you're right.
actually,
I've seen those.
yeah,
But you have to get don't you need to get the chair down to a certain height
yes,
that
oh yeah,
work, right?
absolutely, yeah. There's a measurement chart that they give you, and you have to fall in between. It's just like the chair topper, where that system that goes on top of any, like a car, like a Toyota Tercel,
Right.
where you have it's a thing that pulls it up, and it looks like a luggage rack on top, but it folds a manual chair. But something like that, same thing, Alan, where you have to have a certain measurement of a wheelchair to fit into, you know, back of a truck or on the top of a car and stuff. So,
All right.
yeah.
Hey, Eric, when are they gonna invent something where you just kind of whistle? Like you want to tell the dog to go in the back seat? Like I whistle at my wheelchair a lot. Okay, get in, just hop in like a little doggy.
All the people that are asking about trucks, we do have one of our members, this guy named Ryan, and he is a tall dude. And he actually uses a truck, and he has the arm, the crane arm that brings his chair into the back. I'd be interested to see what his opinions are on using his truck and utilizing the arm and all that stuff to get his chair in back. He does use a manual, but like I said, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's like 6'4". He's a big.
He's a big. And that's putting it lightly, Ryan. He's big. Yeah.
I mean, he's like a linebacker. He's a big guy.
Yeah, he is.
So it'd be interesting to hear what he would have to say about his truck.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, he's got a beefy truck. It's all jacked up too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know how he gets into it. I've never watched him get into it, but
Yeah.
you got to be pretty. I mean, again, he's a big dude, so he's got to be pretty strong to hoist himself up into the truck.
Eric, I was just trying to see if I could find something on Mobility Works website to screen share, but I got a little bit distracted, so I'm sorry if I missed this. But is it possible for someone to stay in their chair and so that that they don't have to have that arm piece, and that there's a lift that could bring them up into the truck? Is that possible?
So you could stay in your chair, and there's like you can drive from your chair or be a passenger. If you Google like Rhino Mobility, RYNO, Rhino Mobility, they'll make accessible pickup trucks, Mobility SVM. So these are vehicles there where they actually have the floor lowered, and they have a big platform and an arm that comes out. So you're in a permobile chair, getting on a platform, and then it pulls you right behind the wheel. So you can drive. I have two people that drove at Mobility SVM trucks, basically. So that's the other option, as opposed to doing a lift in the back where you're driving from the factory seat. You could drive from your wheelchair. So there are two types of converted trucks. One with the lifts, like Ryan was saying, one of the members that have it, and he's got the seat that comes out and lowers. Or you can drive directly from your chair with a special modification, kind of like a lowered floor modification.
Eric, the second one you mentioned it's only Chevrolet that does that, right? Don't they do it out of Indiana with just Chevy trucks, as I remember?
Yeah, it's Chevy. Yeah, they were the Chevy Silverados.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the GMC, well, which is the same type
Same.
of Sierra stuff. Yeah.
But I tried it at one of the expos, and you are sitting in the chair the whole time. So one of the things that I like is being able to get out of the chair and drive. So that short term it would be fine, but I don't think sitting in that chair for an extended period of driving, I don't think would be my choice personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does anybody want to see hand controls? Is that something that people are interested in, or?
Yeah,
All right. So what
Eric,
I'll
I
do.
know you showed me before that stand, and I don't know if you have anything
Yeah.
in the vehicles.
Right. So Marty, this was when we were talking about driving with a joystick. We have people that drive the entire vehicle with just one joystick.
Really?
So, oh yeah, yeah. So this thing would do forward is gas, back is brake. There's your turn to the left, turn to the right. So I actually have several of my clients that have these joysticks, just one joystick. I know Marty, you had the wheel and then the other thing, but yeah, there's different things that you can do electronically, or you can do a hand control stand.
Eric, I think you have Ryan's wheels turning in his brain. He's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Like the
I,
thinking face right now.
I would love to drive again. And I did not know that they had that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, Ryan, if you look up electronic mobility controls, this is all done right in Maine. They're the leader in the country. So yeah, they do all that stuff. Like when Marty was driving in Nebraska, he was using like a type of system like that and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I had I guess a U-shaped joystick.
Yeah.
And I will say it is quite different driving one of these vans than driving like a regular van.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's different. It's like driving a vehicle that's 4 times the size of the vehicle you actually drive.
Yeah.
Weight and the acceleration. And then I had to turn the little wheel like 2.5 times to get the wheels to turn the right way.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's very different in a lot of aspects.
Yeah. Then there is some training, absolutely, that goes with that. So, but I actually have a picture. This is one of our demo stands here. So everyone knows pretty much the spinner knobs that go on the steering wheel. So this is a stand with all different types of hand controls. The more common is you rock it down for your gas. The brake on all of these, you just push forward and you can see the brake. So brake is always forward. Now to do the gas, this one is called the push rock. This one you just kind of pull down, called the push right angle. Some people like motorcycles. This is how you do the gas. You just turn the throttle like a motorcycle. And this, you pull it towards you to do it. So we can put these different types of mechanical controls in a vehicle. And I'll actually show you, I have one of the vehicles that we're doing right now for one of our clients and stuff, and I'll show you the hand controls here.
Yeah, and Eric, just while you're going around to do that, I'll just say that I have the push rock personally, but because I don't have great dexterity, I actually have a tri-pin, and that's where like there's literally 3 kind of like pins that I put my hand into, and that secures my hand so that I don't have to actually grab onto any one of those pieces that Eric was just showing us. So the tri-pin is great for people who don't have the manual dexterity.
Yeah, it's nice because those 3 pins lock it right in and stuff, you know.
Feels really
Yeah. Yeah, and there's all different types. Like, and for example, I'll show you this particular vehicle that we have here. So we have a one of my family clients that we're working with. She's going to actually be doing a transfer. She's going to be transferring with a special transfer seat, and then she's got the push rock on the right side on this one. You could do it on the left side. So she'll do steer with this, and then she'll have the push rock on the right side and stuff. But instead of driving from your wheelchair, you can actually transfer to this transfer seat. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the transfer seats and stuff.
Can you show a close-up of the unit underneath? I've never seen one like that. It looks like it's got a round,
This right here?
yeah. I mean, I've got a 6-way transfer seat, but mine doesn't look anything like that. Mine's
So
old.
what- Yeah, so what they've been doing is, because the older transfer seats used to extend further out, they compacted them now. So you can see how they're more flat. Yours
Yep.
probably comes out further, but see how now they're more flush now these days. So
Cool.
they're a lot slimmer now than they used to be.
All right, thank you.
And
Yeah.
Eric, how far is off the floor is that transfer seat though? It looks kind
So
of high.
good question. The transfer seat, you can actually make it go down too. See, so it goes up and down. So that's at its down position. When it's fully down, it's about an inch higher than the other seat that's on the regular seat base. So the only thing you gain about an inch with all this hardware, an inch higher than the other seat that's removable and stuff.
Do you have
That's
an,
really all.
do you know what that measures from the floor to the seat height?
I can always grab a measuring tape, but this would probably be maybe 2 feet, I'd say.
Looks
About
like it.
24 inches, maybe.
It always it's always better when it's lower than the wheelchair, so you can always be transferring down. Down to get enter it and then raise the seat and then down to get back into your wheelchair.
24 inches is really high. I don't think I could go into that.
Well, what they do is when we order the transfer seats, so these, because well, we were talking earlier, some of the vans have an in-floor ramp, which means the lowered floor depth is less than something that's going to fold out. So what I do is I order the transfer seat for the depth of a lowered floor, which could be like 10, 11 inches, as opposed to like a 12, 13 inch lowered floor. Makes it sit lower by a little bit to help out and stuff. So, especially with people in manual chairs, I've done 2 of those this year where they, I ordered the smaller base, not the other base and stuff.
So would it be a shorter distance then than 24 inches?
Yep, it would be shorter. Absolutely.
Like how much? Like 22 inches or?
You'd gain at least, because the lowered floors range anywhere from 10, 11 inches to like 13, 14 inches. You'd gain at least 2 inches. Yeah. So we would just order lowered floor base for something that's got a smaller lowered floor depth as opposed to something that's a bigger one. So.
If anybody has any questions, feel free to chime in or type them in the chat. We'll read them out to Eric. Definitely don't be shy. Get your questions answered.
So Eric, just to go over that again, if I were to get a van
Yeah.
with a folding ramp,
Yes.
I would be able to transfer into the driver's seat at about 22 inches floor to seat height. Could I get it any lower than that?
What I would do is I would just order the seat base that has because there's 2 seat bases, the ones for the in-floor, which sit lower than the ones with the fold out. So I would just order the seat base for the in-floor, but for the folding ramp conversion to gain 2 inches where you can have it sit lower. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the option, it's nice to kind of order the seat bases. The seat bases are specific to the lowered floor depth, but you can order the smaller seat base if needed.
And that doesn't affect the moving of the chair at all? I mean,
Nope.
one or the other, the small versus the larger seat base?
Nope, it just affects the transfer height. What a lot of people do is if they go with the smaller seat base, they put the seat they bring it up a little bit so they can see over the dash and stuff. So you can ride with the seat base in the up position like that, or put it all the way down when you're getting into it. Make sure it's all the way down when you get into it, but when you're getting out of it, put it up, and like we were talking before, just slide into your wheelchair.
Well, what's the difference then between the larger seat base and the smaller one? I mean, I know that the smaller one will make the seat height lower, but does it have more power or less power? Or
Nope. It really comes down to the way they're built. These seat bases, if you want it for a deeper lowered floor, they have spacers that they put it on when they build it to have it sit up. They remove all the spacers, basically. It's really, the seat is exactly the same. It's just the way that they build it to bring it up or down and stuff. That's really it. It all operates the same.
Pam, there's one other thing about the six-way power seat is that when they put the driver's seat on top of that, they take out the factory one and you have to keep and store that somewhere. Like I keep mine in my basement. And then when I go to sell the van or return the van, then I got to bring it back in with it in case somebody after me wants to be able to put it back to a factory seat. It's a big piece of something that takes up space in my basement. So that's something to consider. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, because we've actually, for clients, if we haven't, we don't receive the seat base back, the parts, we have to find them and order them. So it becomes expensive for sure. So if you have it in your basement, definitely bring it back. That way we don't have to search for it. So.
Eric, I had a few unrelated questions regarding related to this, but different types of questions. I guess with the newer models, the new car lines, what, if any, the impact of these new safety features with lane control, forward and rear braking assist, have you seen and how they are incorporated in the modified vans, and have you got any feedback from people that have used them on how they feel about them?
Those features are still intact. I actually did a Pacific Limited not too long ago where it parked itself, and it was great. But lane departure, lane assist, all that is still intact. None of that really gets changed when you do the modification and stuff. So, dynamic radar control, all that still works. So.
I just didn't know, have you got any feedback from anyone that has it? I've heard some people do say that they get it's a little unnerving because they feel the brake go on before they're going to hit it, and it sort of throws their way of driving off a little bit just because they weren't expecting it. Is that been a problem or an issue?
I would notice it, like I did at one time, but it's something where even if they weren't modified, it still worked the same, really. So it's something that you have to get used to. What I don't like these days is when you come to a light, the engine shuts off, and then when you release the brake, it goes back on. I know you can shut it off, but it's just stuff that you have to get used to. Like your forward collision warning, that was something when it hit the brakes before, like you had said, I was just like, wow, but it's the same without being modified. So it's just something that I think the world's going to with all the safety stuff. So.
What models allow for the newer models, I guess, in the different car lines, allow for zero assist horizontal steering?
So good question, because I've done a few throughout the years. We were doing them on hydraulic steering systems. Like I've done them in Ford vans, and I've done them in Dodge Grand Caravans. We haven't done anything lately with vehicles that have electric steering, like the Toyota's got electric power steering. The Pacifica's the same.
So that's a great question. I haven't seen horizontal steering in quite some time. We have one here just for service. He has it in a Honda Odyssey, which is hydraulic. But that's
fine.
yeah, I haven't.
That's actually my van in right now in your
Oh,
shop.
okay.
So,
Yeah, the black
so
Honda.
I was just asking because I know that was last time I did look for a vehicle. That was a consideration something I had to take into consideration. I think at the time, Toyota was the one that was doing that I couldn't get because of that. But I just didn't know if that's becoming more limited. Does Honda still allow it? And does Toyota now allow it? Or does the Chrysler even allow it? And now with the addition of the Traverse, would that allow it? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Horizontal steering is done through a company called Drive Master in Fairfield, New Jersey. I haven't seen anything, like you're just saying, your van is here for service, but I haven't really seen anything other than the last one we did was yours. So, so I haven't seen much come through. So that's a great question. Absolutely. But yeah, like I said, when we were looking at for doing yours, it's all hydraulic systems for sure. So if I hear anything from Drive Master, I'll definitely keep you guys posted. But that's the company that does it and stuff. We send the steering racks out and all that stuff, and they just modify it and send us that. So now, does yours have reduced effort steering as part of your hydraulic? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, good question.
I was just going to say the last question I had is what are the new models that maybe they're too new to know, but I guess the quietest ride. A lot of floors allow for a lot of noise, especially on the highway with the drop flooring. And I didn't know if there's any that you find recommend, say, well, these are the better ones for a sound.
Sure. Yeah. Toyotas I found that are quieter than the Chryslers. Hondas, they're relatively new, but they're quiet when I drove them. Definitely with the Chrysler Pacificas, because you have such a deeper floor, you hear a lot more of the ground noise than the Toyotas.
Okay.
And the Hondas. Yeah, no problem.
So Eric, I have that accelerator ring on my Toyota. You're not doing that. Wheelie Works isn't installing those anymore, or are they?
It was a Guido Simplex ring.
Yeah.
So right away when I started, we actually had the Guido rep that had an office at our New Hampshire location. So once we merged with Mobility Works being the larger entity between Right Away, they made some changes. And that was one of the things, Alan, is the Guido Simplex line, they stopped carrying it basically. So yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But you'll still service?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have several people that, because our technicians that are all Guido certified, they're still here. And we can still get parts through Better Life Mobility. They're like the actual dealer for Guido Simplex in the United States. So we can, his name is Tom Thrash actually. And we can still get all the parts and our guys still do all the service.
Right.
It's just, we just don't sell them new now.
Because I may be shopping for a new vehicle at some point, but so through Mobility Works, I'd have to try a whole different system from what you're offering now. So I'm thinking about getting a smaller car that I can transfer into, because the van's good for what it is, but it's, driving long distance, it's not that efficient. But you said that Toyota may be doing a hybrid Sienna, is that right?
Yeah.
So, I just paid my van off, so I'm in no rush, but
there we go.
I am kind of looking around. I had an Outback, a Subaru Outback that I really liked, and I kind of miss driving that because it was it's nice to drive, but
Oh yeah. Yeah. Subarus are great. I had one in college. They're great vehicles. Yeah.
it's good in this part of the country.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
I mean, they're all-wheel drive. I've had a few pickups in my day, but they had the best traction in the snow that way beyond any truck that I've owned had four-wheel drive. So
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, they're great. I loved it. I went to school up in northern New Hampshire and stuff. So yeah, traveling was great. Was awesome with the Subaru.
but, all right, so I may be looking at some point, but we'll ways down the road.
Yeah, no worries, Al. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. We do have a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Warren said that he's just beginning the process of getting his license back, and how does he determine what he needs? So I know from personal experience, but I don't know if you'd want to go over that, kind of like a little bit of the process of what somebody would need to do to kind of regain their licensure.
Yeah. So they're in order to drive with any adaptive equipment, you have to be seen by a certified driving rehab specialist. So I know Spalding, Amy, Donna Bedian, I know she does a lot at Spalding to get Don Sampson from Central Mass Safety Council to do these types of evaluations. So once Don evaluates you with, drives around and evaluates you for driving stuff, then he writes up a prescription, and then basically equipment's installed, and then you have to do a road test with the registry. So the first step is definitely, like you were saying, Heather, you got the driving evaluation, have to get the evaluated by Dawn, or, we have another person, Adaptive Driving Associates is another person that does that. But that's the first step, is definitely get a certified rehab specialist involved. So.
Yep, definitely. And this doesn't necessarily apply to everybody, but it might be of interest for some people to even see if Mass Rehabilitation Commission, if you're located in Massachusetts, may be able to fund your process to returning to getting your license back if it is involved with any type of work or vocation. So because the process does get a little expensive. But I also just wanted to mention that our chapter, the Greater Boston chapter, does have a grant opportunity for, and it's up to $2,500. It's called our B2N grant, and it covers vehicle modifications. And like I said, up to that $2,500 mark. So it doesn't cover the purchase of a vehicle, but if you were to just look into adaptive hand controls or, vehicle, just the whole kit that modifies the vehicle, that is an option, and you can find that application on our website, and that's sciboston.org. So something to think about if you are looking into returning to driving, that there is funding, there are grant opportunities available to help you get back on the road.
Yeah, that is a great grant, because I remember one of the Emmett, was able to get back to driving with help from you guys, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
Could I ask a quick question to follow up on that? I guess I'm curious as to, someone gets their license, how do they figure out what accessible devices they need? In other words, who would fit them and say, you want this kind of steering devices, this kind of seat, who makes those recommendations? Is it you guys, or is it the staff at Spalding, or who?
So the certified driving rehab specialist would be the one that writes up the prescription. I know Spalding works with Central Mass Safety Council, Don Sampson. So we keep actually the evaluation van here. So Don actually picks it up here and evaluates clients. And then when he's writes up a prescription that is handed to a mobility dealer like Mobility Works, it'll say push rock hand control. electronic dry joystick, so that's all written by the certified driving rehab specialist. So he's basically like the doctor. We're like the pharmacist. We take the prescription and we fill it by putting in the equipment, really. So.
And I think it's really important to stress that these, what Eric is saying is that these hand controls, these assistive driving devices are actually prescriptive devices. So some people choose to, go on eBay or wherever, and they will buy other driving devices and just manually install them themselves, and they'll be out on the road. They don't have any sort of notation on their driving license that they use adaptive hand controls or anything like that. You just think about, like, you wouldn't go on eBay and buy someone else's pain meds. So just think about, like, it is a prescriptive device, and while it might work for you to be getting out on the road and everything seems to be fine, worst case scenario is that, you get into a fender bender, and then all of a sudden it comes out that you don't have the right prescriptive devices and nothing's noted on your license, and you could just be just kind of digging yourself in a little bit deeper into trouble, even if it wasn't your fault. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, but like, I think it could fall back on, like, the responsibility could fall back on you just because you weren't forthright about abilities on the road.
Yeah. So if you get stuff off the internet, put them into a vehicle, and they find that you got into an accident using these hand controls that were not prescribed, liability falls on you. So, and it could be somebody that could hit you, but still, you're supposed to be driving a vehicle with hand controls that are prescribed. And there's, to go further on that, is when you take your road test at the registry, they mark your license. So they put a code saying that, I know in New Hampshire, it's MC, mechanical controls. In Vermont, I know it's AE, adaptive equipment. They put a code on your license. So.
Yeah, it's not to scare anybody, just to, like, inform that, there is a right way to go about doing it. And then there is an incorrect way, I guess. You just don't want to have that liability fall on you, because, going the less expensive route to start could end up being more expensive in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We do have another question in the chat. And it's from Ellen, and she was wondering how much are hand controls, and is the joystick version more expensive than the traditional ones? Like, which type is easier to learn and how to use? So we'll just start with the beginning. So just generally, I guess, how much are hand controls and how do they compare?
So hand controls installed is roughly about $1,200, $1,300. Parts, labor. So that's like if somebody had a prescription, came to Mobility Works, we put one in. Electronic joysticks. So now hand controls take 4 or 5 hours to put in. Electronic joystick is comprehensive. That can take up to a week to put in, because you have to do, there's a separate system that runs the power. There's a backup system. There's all these auxiliary batteries. You're looking at a joystick system runs about 35,000 compared to a hand control, which is like $1,200-$1,300. So the joystick systems that I've seen, I've been here almost 19 years. I saw one person pay for it privately. The joystick systems are Mass Rehab or VA or Vermont or New Hampshire Voc Rehab. So if you're doing joystick, definitely get Voc Rehab involved. Sure.
And which type do you feel is easier to learn how to use, or is there an easier one?
Mechanical, because the joystick is very sensitive. So yeah, mechanical is not as sensitive and stuff. So I would definitely say mechanical. Absolutely.
Any follow-up questions to that, Ellen, or did that answer your question? Sorry, I know you're muted.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry. Thank you for asking it, Heather, and answering it, Eric. Yeah, I'm just curious, like, how long does it take to really, get the hang of using it so that you feel safe?
Ellen, were you a driver? Like, did you ever drive?
Yeah, previously, yeah, but not for
In
many
my
years now.
experience, I have found that it's almost like getting back on a bike again, where like if you rode a bike before, you didn't ride a bike for 15 years, you get back on, you're like, oh, okay. I was very nervous just from personal experience. Like, first of all, I drive with my left hand, so I brake and I gas with my left, and then I steer with my right, which is opposite from when I drive my chair, which is from the right. So I had to really like wrap my brain. It was like retraining my brain a little bit. But I was very pleasantly surprised to see how my old habits, good habits, came back, where, you know, like you're scanning the road, you're looking around, you know, I felt like even after 1 or 2 times back out on the road with the hand controls, I felt more confident than I expected. So that was pleasantly surprising.
So it felt comfortable driving again, and you were able to adapt to using the hand controls pretty readily and quickly.
Yeah, in my experience, I
Yeah.
did.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, and I also use a button on the side of my door. It's called voice scan. And Eric, I just want to tell you that I say good morning to Maurice every day. So Maurice is the man whose voice is on my voice scan. So I click, and actually my son has memorized the entire voice scan. He goes,
Oh, he's got the order down. Yeah.
left turn, right turn, wiper.
Yeah.
So he goes through this
Watcher.
little scanner, and whenever I hear what I want, I click the button again. So if I want my left turn signal, I click it, I let it go to the second option, and then I click it again, I turn it on my left. Whereas individuals who have the hand dexterity could take your hand off, flick the blinker, you know, the directional, and then continue on. But for me, I have that great voice scan. But every morning Maurice says, what does he say? Have all systems are ready. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
It's not annoying.
I love it.
Yeah, I get greeted by Maurice every day, but that's with the voice scan, and that's just something, just like an added thing that, you know, for individuals who do have quadriplegia, or even, I don't know, maybe some people with para have that option to do the voice scan as well. So there's just so many cool things that are out there, and Ellen, I really think that you would be pleasantly surprised when you get behind the wheel.
Good, thanks.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me, Ellen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very easy to get used to hand controls. You know, I agree with Heather. I got in the car and, you know, I just drove it the first time. I mean, it was just really, really, really easy.
And I noticed that the push down or whatever it was called, that could be either on the right or the left. Is that depending on the person's dominant side, or what, like how?
Yep. And the drive it evaluator can, in his evaluation vehicle, he can put it on both sides. So he'll evaluate you left or right side. What's best for you. Yep.
Hey, Ellen, I don't know if you ever drove a manual shift vehicle, but I found when I took the class that I preferred it on the right, just because I was used to using a shifter. So I think that's going back to riding a bicycle thing, but definitely that. And the other thing I would say is, it took me probably a week or two to get comfortable with my ability to stop and accelerate in traffic. Once I got beyond that, once I felt comfortable doing that, it was like a piece of cake.
I totally agree. And funny enough, when I got back out on the highway again too, I was a little bit nervous because I also have a reduced steering effort. So sometimes when you're going faster, like a little, like a half an inch move, like sends you over this way, and you're like, okay, got to get used to this. But yeah, so a lot of times though, it's just a matter of like, you figure it out and then you adjust, and like, just like Alan said, you just kind of go with the experience of it and just figure out it. Every car has its sensitivities too. So just like when you get used to driving your own car, even you know, wheelchair aside, you go in and hop in someone else's car, the brakes are a little bit more touchy, and the accelerator might be different. So same thing getting into this, accessible vehicle, you're just going to figure it out.
Right. So don't the first day, don't drive rush hour Boston traffic.
No, definitely do not. Absolutely not recommend.
Ease into it.
Depends how sporty you are.
Well, I was never brave enough to even try the manual. So that's why it's kind of scary to me. It's like,
Yeah.
well, manual transmission always scared me. I never tried it, even though I should have learned how, but I never did.
It's
So
kind of like
easier? Is it-
sailing. You learn a lot in the first 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, and just for some context, I was at Mass General. I was still a patient, and I was taking driving lessons. They picked me up in front of the white building.
Mhm.
I got in the car and drove all around. That's where I drove for the very first time with hand controls. It was right in Boston traffic.
Wow.
It was fine.
And even the driving test too. Like I took my driving test in Watertown, and I was so nervous. Like I felt like I was 16 all over again. Like, please let me pass this test. Please let me pass this test. And I remember what my dad told me when I first took my driving test, that like the driver instructor knows like within the first almost like 30 seconds whether you're gonna pass or not, just by like how you're maneuvering the car. If you're looking, like they know almost right away. And you do have to do the parallel parking, which definitely takes a little bit of time, but the driving instructor gives you some pointers and of like the markers on your car of when to start turning one way and then turning the other. And you have to back straight up. I think it's 20 feet or 60 feet or something like that. But again, you go through all these things with the instructor, and you basically are just practicing your test as you're going through your lessons. So, but yeah, so I passed on my first time too. So. Woohoo!
Now, I had a question about the test versus like, well, actually, I guess it's not so much the test, but license versus like a state ID. Because I might not get back to getting behind the wheel per se, but does anyone have any input on that? Like, if I'm not able to get back to being able to pass that test, is there anything I'm losing by losing a license and having to stick with the state ID as my form of identification?
Yeah, the only thing, Martin, and this is again from my personal experience, so anybody else who has any other experience, definitely feel free to chime in. The only challenge that I had was when I went to insure the vehicle that I had purchased. My name was on the title, it is mine, but I wasn't driving at the time. I had like family members or PCAs driving. I had a difficult time getting insured. For whatever reason, because I wasn't the primary driver, I had to kind of hunt around to find vehicles, an insurance company that would insure somebody's vehicle where they weren't the primary driver. So that was really the only challenge that I think I had, that and I actually had my license taken away from me for whatever reason, like when I got sick. However, documentation was filled out. I applied for my handicap placard. They sent my handicap placard, and then they came in and said, we'll take this. So where some people who do have spinal cord injuries for whatever reason do not ever have their license taken away from them. So I think that, and it's not that they're necessarily driving, the state never identifies that it needs to be revoked or needs to have like an adaptive equipment flagged on there. But as far as I had a state ID for a while. So that was kind of the only issue that I had with it. So I think it's kind of just like doing a little bit of research and figuring out what works for you.
Actually, Heather, I had a similar experience in that they requested that I surrender my license. However, I didn't have any problem with my insurance for my car. I still have the car, and I have 3 other people's names on the policy. There was no issue whatsoever with that.
So strange. So
Yep.
I was like, how does this work? Like, there have to be other people in this world that are, having this issue. So I did find an insurance company. So my vehicle was insured, but that's good to know that maybe it might've just been the insurance companies that I was looking at or the agency that I was going through or something like that. So that's good to know. I do want to be mindful of the time. It is 12:22, but Eric is still here. Any other questions? We'll try to wrap up in the next 5 to 8 minutes or so, but definitely feel free to ask any questions that we have with Eric here.
This is Maria Matos. I have a question, Eric. For people quadriplegic, I don't have a much movement in the arm. I have van before, but I use those 3 pink, like Heather.
Yep,
So now I don't have in my van anymore because it breaks down. That electronic one is better for me, or I have to go with the other one?
That basically, if you're going back to driving again, the key is to have the certified driving specialist reevaluate you, because your needs could have changed. So he'll know. I've actually had a client who started out with reduced effort steering, like Heather does, and he lost so much mobility he had to go to a joystick system. So people's needs change, so I would still get evaluated, and then they'll decide what is best for you, for sure.
You think the massive rehab is gonna help me again, or no?
I would definitely apply. I've done a few last year through Mass Rehab, so I would definitely apply. They're still doing the program, so.
You're still all genuine Eugenio still there, or somebody else?
Eugene, yep, Eugene's still there. Yep, absolutely. You'd want to start with the counselor for the Mass Rehab office near where you live, and then Eugene's always the one that oversees everything. So.
Thank you.
No problem.
Actually.
Go ahead. And then there's another question in the chat. So I'll have Warren go, and then I'll chime in with another question. Go ahead.
Actually, I reached out to Don at Central Mass Safety, and he was very helpful. However, the first documents they sent to me were 2 waiver documents related to COVID. So I decided that I'm going to wait till vaccinations come through before I do anything.
Yeah, it's so different right now too. The experience is totally different.
Yeah, he was, so with COVID, Don wasn't doing evaluations for 3 months. So when he came back, he had such a backlog because of COVID and stuff.
And he's a busy guy anyways, so imagine. Oh, yeah. The question in the chat is, can hand controls be transferred to another vehicle if you sell the vehicle or want to use someone else's vehicle?
So hand controls can be transferred. Really what you need to get is if you go from one vehicle to the other vehicle, you just need to get the mounting bracket specific to the new vehicle. So for example, if you have a Toyota Camry and you want to go to a Nissan Altima, the hand controls, the major components can be transferred. It's just the way that it mounts around the steering column is different. So you need what's called as a, like a universal kit that goes in there for a bracket around that. So, which ends up saving a few $100. If you want to transfer controls, it ends up saving a few $100. So it's some people do it. Some people just go right to a brand new set. So it's really up to the person. So
Eric, when I bought a new car a couple years ago, they wouldn't allow me to transfer my hand controls into my new car. They said that, yeah, it was an age thing.
yeah, was it more than 5 years?
I probably. So that's, is that the cutoff, 5 years?
Well, 5 years, we look at them, but typically 5-year window is what we give. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why would it only last 5 years?
It's just a liability thing.
Liability, yeah.
So
It's
even if
not
you're
like
not
the
changing
controls
vehicle,
are any different. It's just liability, really.
so for insurance reasons and overall safety reasons, you need to replace it every 5 years?
No, if only
No.
if you're transferring.
Only if you're transferring. Okay. All right,
Exactly.
thanks. Thank you.
But actually, that brings up a good point. There is no liability on how old you.
Yeah, no, we have clients that have had controls in for 10 years, that and then buy a van and stuff,
Is the insurance company going to say if you get into an accident, oh, it's your fault because your, hand controls are 10 years old?
I drive a 2007 car, so it's my fault if I hit somebody. No, it's really comes down to the controls in the vehicle. It's really when you transfer it as a company like us. We look at 5 years. It's like a lockdown, like an easy lock, or driving from your wheelchair and you're getting a new vehicle. Usually when you have a easy lock that's been around for 5 years, we tell them just get a new one. And it's just.
Eric, this is kind of a dumb question, but are all of the mobility therapists in the area, the different locations, do they all offer the same? Like if you go in to buy a new van, they're all going to have the same cars to show you, or like does New Hampshire location have more cars available to show than the Woburn location?
All of the locations offer all the same products. The New Hampshire location where I started 18 years ago, we're the hub for all of the New England states. So all the vehicles come here and then we send them out through here. So that's why, and we own the building here. So that's why we have, over 100 vehicles, because, it's, we're the hub. Like Norwood, North Attleboro, Woburn, they have selection, but not as much as we have here.
But you could still you wanted to see. They just have to drive it down.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. I drive it down. Somebody said, can you bring down the new Pacifica? So like Monday, I'm going to Marblehead to bring down a Pacifica. I was in North Attleboro this week showing the vehicle and stuff. So yeah, no, I can drive anywhere with the vehicle.
Okay.
I have a couple of off the wall questions for you, Eric. Is there a van that's better than others for transporting multiple wheelchair users, both manual and power? We have a group of women that like to go to different events, and we were talking about it the other night. And I'm wondering if there's one van's better than the other that you would recommend if they could fit 2 or 3 other wheelchairs in there.
Yeah, and I do a lot of the full-size vans myself. I have Enterprise that I've worked with for a long time, where they have a lot of group homes, hospitals they work with. So the Ford Transit is the most popular one because you can fit 2, 3 wheelchairs and seats, not including the driver and passenger. And also the Ford's terms of their government concessions they give you a lot more. So Ford Transits, it's probably a good 95% of the full-size van market. The other ones are the Dodge Ram ProMasters. But the Transits, like I said, they pretty much have the market on that because they give you the most amount of wheelchair configurations along with seats. So good question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then Heather mentioned our grant program, which again, I'd reiterate that it's available for anyone who's looking for vehicle modifications. And I'm curious if you see other organizations provide grants similar to ours for spinal cord injury folks.
Travis Roy was the other one that comes to mind.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I knew Travis. He would come in for service, and I played hockey in college, and I know he was the next NHL prospect. So I get to be friends with Travis, and his program helped definitely. You guys definitely helped out Emmett, which I was saying before. So You know, it's great to have programs like what you guys have and stuff, because we all know it's expensive. So.
Eric, does Braun have a grant program?
They have a program, good question, yeah. So they have a program where basically if somebody's trying to purchase a vehicle and they're, we'll say, short $1,000, you know, but they've exhausted every grant out there and every opportunity, you could apply to the Ralph Braun Foundation and they can give up to, you know, $2,500. But you have to go through every opportunity. I've only done one since Ralph Braun's been doing it, because they're pretty strict and stuff. Because they want to see that you've gone through and went to the, you know, the B2N, the Travis Roys, all those, and then at that point, then they'll give you some money. So
I didn't look into it. In general, we're always having people asking us about, you know, grant opportunities. And as we all know, like spinal cord injury in general, just gets very expensive. So anywhere that people can get help is great. And so that grant though can help to purchase the actual vehicle.
Yeah. They won't put in like, you know, like driving equipment. No, that's only like if I'm buying a $35,000 van and I've got all the money except for $1,000 or $1,500. You apply to them, and then if they approve you, they'll just send a check to the dealer.
Got it.
To the Braun dealer, actually.
Okay, all right, yeah. And so for our vehicles, it does not. Bye, Marty. Great to see you. I just saw your chat that you're leaving. Thanks so much for joining us. But most grants are not going to cover the payment of the actual vehicle. That's up to the individual. That's the individual's responsibility to pay for the vehicle. But then there are grant opportunities to pay for the conversion, which could be upwards of $15,000, right? So I'm just saying, like, if you purchase a vehicle that has no modifications whatsoever, and then the kit, you can get grant funding for that. And
Yeah,
that's
the adaptive equipment part. Yeah, it's just like mass rehab. You have to provide the vehicle; they pay for it to be modified. You know, so.
Yeah. I did put your office phone number and your email address in the chat. It looks like Ellen had, maybe we'll have this be the last question because I know it's 12:35. But the pros and cons of like rear versus side ramp entries. And then I don't know what a suicide door is, Ellen. I don't know if I've ever heard that before.
It's so the rear, well, Eric probably knows, right?
Yeah, the suicide doors on the sides where the doors open up instead of one certain particular way, they open up like a different way and stuff. Yeah, I know.
Right. So it's
like the Honda Pilot is the suicide doors.
Which is?
Heather and I were talking before about the Honda Pilot, the accessible Honda Pilot. Well, they have a suicide door type of setup on theirs.
Okay.
And the ramp issue?
Oh,
So,
go ahead.
I was going to say, so the major difference in all the years I've been doing this, when people say, should I do side or rear? My whole question, first question is, do you want to ride up front in your wheelchair? You want to drive from your wheelchair, or do you want to be a passenger in the front? And if they say yes, rear entry's out of it, because you cannot come all the way to the front with a rear entry van. You're always in the middle or in the third row. So it all depends, you know, that's the number one question I ask. And that's how people say, no, I don't mind riding out in the back. I said, well, the rear entry could work, you know. So.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
One last thing I just wanted to mention, and I did want to tell everybody too, that we did record this. So Eric's presentation will be viewable. We'll try to get that up on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't checked out our YouTube, definitely check it out. It's okay. That's my son. He's obsessed with it. Okay. Greater Boston chapter of United Spinal Association. That's our YouTube. Okay. So also I wanted to just mention an organization that I just spoke with yesterday, and it's called Help Hope Live. And it's almost like a GoFundMe page, except for the money that is donated the money is donated to this organization in your name, in your honor. And that money is yours, and they pay bills directly. So they will pay your medical bills, they'll pay for vehicle modifications. And that way the money is not in your name, so it won't prevent any sort of benefit loss or, people there are certain limitations as to assets you can have. So they're an organization that has that money in an account for you, and then they pay vendors directly. So you never actually touch the money. So it's called Help Hope Live. They actually have live people that can help you fundraise as well. So I'm hoping to have them come into one of our Thursday groups, and maybe even the family group as well in the next coming weeks. So we'll definitely keep you posted on that. But I was really excited to hear about how it wouldn't affect individuals' benefits, and they actually can help you fundraise for a certain item or just for general medical expenses. So, but thank you so much, Eric. I think that we'll wrap. Oh, Doug, did you want to say another thing?
No, I was just going to say thanks, Eric. Great
Yeah.
presentation.
Oh, no, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for everything.
This was amazing. I think it was so helpful. A lot of information, a lot of questions answered. Like I said, Eric's phone number and email address are in the chat. So if you want to grab those, or if you aren't able to grab them from the chat, certainly just reach out to our info@sciboston.org email, and I can get you Eric's contact information. So anything else you wanted to add in, Eric, or but otherwise Eric is based out of, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of the town, New Hampshire. But
Londonderry.
Londonderry, yes.
I actually work out of all the stores.
Yeah.
If somebody gets referred to me, but it's Woburn and Londonderry are the two places I kind of bounce back and forth. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much. This was amazing. So many great.
Thank you, Eric.
Oh, good. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Erin. Thanks for being
Bye.
a woman. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you for coming, everybody, and hope to see you again soon at one of our regular groups, and reach out to us if you have any questions.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Eric. Thanks so much.
Thank you.